their freefall has been enormous. They were a clear top 4 side for the first sort of month and a bit of the season.
Yep. Welcome everyone to the Eddie and Jimmy podcast. Make sure you find us on YouTube and Instagram. Just search Eddie and Jimmy. And we've got to thank Fiji Airways and Hyundai, of course. Hyundai, you can do big things in the new Alexio. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today. And Fiji Airways, I won't do the big Eddie spiel, but you know it's incredible. It's amazing. Great stop off. You either have a couple of days by the pool before you head on to North America any way you want to go, or you can do it on the return, of course. Visit FijiAirways.com to book your flight to Fiji and beyond. Fiji Airways, where happiness takes flight. And I think that's where Eddie is. He is guts up beside the pool, swirling a couple of margaritas or whatever it may be. But no, in all seriousness, we've got a great person filling Eddie's chair. It's Sam Docherty. How are you, Sam?
I'm good, Jim. Thanks for having me on. I feel like I've got big shoes to fill sitting here, but we could have changed the logos on the mics for me. Doc and Jimmy.
Yeah, you're going first, are you?
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, Dr. Jimmy sounds not too bad. Hey, I want to ask you, first year in the media, you're doing amazing things, not just pumping up your tyres, but your work, your research is shining through. You provided great insights. How have you actually found first year in the dark side or on the dark side?
On the dark side. I've loved it, to be honest. It's been a lot of fun. Probably looking at the game from a different lens has been the fun part about it. When you're in footy, you're very focused on your own club and what's going on in your own backyard, and being able to take a wider net across clubs and dissecting them and seeing how they play and what the stats are behind them. It's been really enjoyable, and obviously taking a broader approach to the issues in the game as opposed to just what's impacting you. It's been a lot of fun. It started in hot water as not my intention, but it started a bit frosty, but thoroughly enjoy myself and looking forward to sitting here for a couple of weeks with you.
Do you still find you get caught in, call it player mode? So what I mean is you go to start to comment on something and the player, little man, catches you? Because that happened a bit for myself in my first year. It's like, oh, hang on, should I say that? But then you realise, oh no, I'm just expressing an opinion and I'm not at Clubland. Not that you're asked to throw people under the bus, but do you still have the little player man in your head?
A little bit, because I did a bit of it in the back when I retired. I retired almost a year ago in a couple of weeks. So I did the whole of last year, and I found it really difficult last year when I was still at the club at Carlton, trying to give an opinion and sitting there doing interviews with CEOs of clubs and then feeling that unease of asking them a question about what's going on with their facilities or what's going on with their trade table. It was very awkward. I haven't found it as much this year, but it's still learning and growing in the space, which is always good fun.
You're doing a cracking job. Plenty of great feedback for you. So keep up the great work. Let's take a look at the stories dominating AFL round 16. It's a sad day. No more bye rounds left. It's really unfortunate that we won't have any football with any bye rounds. And of course, the other thing too is when you have a limited amount of games, we don't have any overlapping fixtures anymore, just to miss quarters of football like we've all been asking.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this a fair bit, the scheduling that's going on. It's nice to have the third of the year that doesn't have a bye attached to it. Yeah. It's been a frustration of all fans, to be honest, and people in the media. But yeah, there's the double. The having the overlapping, we've got less games on the weekend, yeah. And then we had games overlapping. I was sitting there yesterday afternoon watching the end of the North Melbourne Essendon game, and then all of a sudden I flick over and it's quarter time of Freo. I didn't even realise that was the case, but hopefully we're at the end of this year. Would be nice. There's a few things that the CEO's conference, and I know we might talk about this, but high up on that priority list should be the scheduling of the current format. Yeah,
the CEO's on schoolies up there in the Gold Coast doing their best work. And look, I know you're never going to get the fixture perfect, and you get slapped around the ears, and of course you're not going to win many fans being a fixturing person. But there's some layups that they've clearly missed this year.
Yeah, absolutely. The opening round bye, the byes just generally, I think this has been a frustration across all footy fans. The opening round and the byes at the start of the year and the inequality that creates, and then you come into the middle of the year and then there's 6 weeks of byes, teams playing each other off byes or not. It never marries up properly. So you've got one team that's on a 15-game stretch versus one that's 2 weeks back from a bye and had to freshen up. It just doesn't make a whole heap of sense. I think there's a pretty logical fix. I know it's probably not going to be the commercialisation that the AFL wants, but I think there's a lot of great things you could do on just a whole round off of footy in the middle of the year. Everyone can have a break, and everyone else, all the fans can have a bye for a week and relax.
Go back to local footy, put some money over the canteen, get your hot dog, your beer or soft drink or whatever it may be. Now let's get to Thursday night's game. There was plenty to talk about. This might sound strange with the Brisbane and Swans game. Even though the Swans lost by 40 points, I think there's positives to both sides. Clearly, Brisbane look like, hang on, they've got the mojo back and they're clearly going to make their charge from here. But I think it's a good time. I'm going to use some words that's crept into the AFL lingo. It was a good time for the Swans to get an audit on their forward handball game. It might as well happen now against a really good side, which you've sort of built your game plan to defeat. You test it, go away, work on it. Plenty of rounds of footy left to hopefully come back and meet them again. Well, they'll definitely meet them in the finals. Well, the Swans will make the finals. We know the Lions will, of course. So I think there were some positives out of both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting game. Before the game, and probably the audits come in the last 3 weeks for the Swans. I think their game plan, teams have kind of figured out that forward handball and what they're trying to do, and they've got away with a few wins when they've really got tested. So I think they've kind of had that audit in the background, and they've started to try and shift their game model from an offensive point of view. I think they went too far on the weekend. They've gone from forward handball chaos to trying to control the ball a bit and go a bit slower, and I think they kind of tilted the needle too far that way. So, as you said, I think it's a good time for them. They're well clear in terms of the ladder. They're focused on September. They're going to have to try and find what that mix is for September, and I think that's what their next month will be. And then from the other side, Brisbane, the only part of their game that's been sort of down the bottom of the league is their defence. And they took a big step forward on the weekend. They were quite one-on-one, which I was surprised about, and it's maybe a bit of a shift, or maybe it's just to try and get away from the Swans handball game. But it worked significantly well against that model. So it'll be an interesting watch to see how that develops from the Brisbane side. But both teams in this development stage coming into finals.
It looked one-on-one behind the footy, but that was to then get proactive. Yeah. It's sort of like they flipped the order, whereas it looked like they were getting really proactive, but of course the opposition was coming through, which then exposes when you're off your direct opponent. It looked like go back, reference, come forward. And Chris Fagan said it in his post matches, press. Yeah. And if they beat us all the way out the back, well then they've beaten us there, they've beaten us there, they've beaten us there. Well done. You almost give a bit of a clap. You've been too good. But they actually went back, and then it was the next player just kept rolling around behind. So if you weren't involved, come back almost to the start of the queue to come forward again.
Absolutely. And their power off turnover was significantly better. And it might have been a mix of that. It's a mix of going one-on-one, getting themselves in a really strong defensive position to then come forward when they need to. But then ultimately when they got Sydney to kick long down the line, which is not really Sydney's game plan, they're in such good positions to win that contest and springboard off the back of it. And they looked dynamic. They looked back to their best in many ways, and their power, their arrogance in some aspects was good to see, and that's the Brisbane that everyone's scared of coming into the back end of the year.
Fremantle won their 14th game in a row. Teams to win 14 in a row end up in the grand final. The record is 4-3, but they go on to make a grand final. So good signs for the Dockers. There's a level of maturity about them. That's what I'm seeing, that they'll be able to win in many different fashions. They'll be able to take what the game gives them. When the opposition throws something at them, they don't concede lots of scores in those moments. They've won tough, of course, some slippery, wet conditions. They've won using the ball. They've won forward handball. They've won it hitting up forwards on the lead, clearance, stoppage. Pretty well balanced side they've got going over there at Freo.
Yeah, they are. They're playing very good football, and as you said, not many holes in their game at the moment. If you're talking about the audit the two teams, Brisbane and Sydney, have kind of had over the last month, no one's found that for Freo yet. So interesting watch to see what teams throw up in the back end of the year. They got a really important game against the Swans in about 3 weeks, I think it is. So that'll be, after the Swans have developed and gone over there, that'll be a good watch to see sort of where both sides are at coming into the back end of the year. But yeah, their defensive work is outstanding, and you can see it when they play. Like their half forward lines all rolling back to defend, their intent to get at the ball carrier, their strength in intercepting in the back half. They're a team on the same page. They're a team that's pretty driven off what happened last year And I think they know that they're going to be in the pointy end of the year. So it's exciting for Freo fans, definitely.
Most difficult thing for them for the final 8 weeks is how they manage players, game plan, balance. Luke Jackson's flying, we know, but Darcy and Cox, you want to get some minutes into Darcy because they've seen that look at the start of the year. They've seen the look, obviously, with Mason Cox. Do you start, not do you rest players, but do you give guys opportunities in roles that you might need to break glass? So does that mean a certain player might call it not a hard tag, but a run with role, just in case grand final day someone gets off the chain? It'll be fascinating to see what the Dockers do from here towards the back end of the year.
It is that delicate balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it isn't.
It's the, do we keep carrying the form, carrying the team and roll out the year and
how much training do you put in during the week? Yeah.
Even I listened to Luke Jackson after the game, and the question got asked about, do you need a rest or would you like a rest? And he's like, nah, I just want to keep going, keep rolling, which that's often, as a player, that's what you want to do. You don't want to tinker with too many things, and I think that'll be the challenge for, say, John Longmire, Longmire and his coaching staff is how many small things do we have a look at and see what it looks like for when we might need it later in the year. I wouldn't be flirting with it too much. I think just keep rolling. You're clearly the best team as it is at the moment, well and truly on top for my likings at the moment, which hurts me because it's been Freo U versus me, the Swans for the year. I will concede Freo's going a little bit better at the moment, but they just need to get themselves cherry ripe, injury free, playing good footy in the back half of the year.
Yeah, for people unaware, Doc and I at the very start of the year had to pick our ladder, and we had pretty much both those sides up near the top end. But you had the Swans finishing on top, and I had Freo finishing on top. But I won't gloat just yet because a lot of season to go. Speaking of a lot of season to go, Damien Hardwick used to call it Big Boy Month, which was July for his Richmond Football Club. Well, it's going to be Big Boy Months for the Gold Coast Suns. They are in free fall at the moment. They only kicked 3 goals, 29 total points, which was their 4th lowest score ever. 20 points is their lowest score ever, and that's sort of expansion days. It's just not clicking at the moment. They've clearly got the talent. They're starting to bristle up there. Of course, when media ask questions regarding what's going on with their defensive work, their stoppage, their clearance work, their stoppage clearance work was better. But then again, defensively, they found it really difficult to stop Fremantle. Yeah,
this against Freo is probably the reverse of what most of the year's been.
It has been,
hasn't it? They've been the worst clearance team in the comp for the year, and that's numbers wise. So they've been getting smashed in that section and then not being able to convert off the back of it in terms of the transition of the game. But then on the weekend, they won clearance, but then they couldn't keep the ball in there. So very interesting watch. Probably I'll give them a tick in terms of their development from clearance because that's been a massive issue for them and it probably forced them to play a bit of a different game. But there's issues there. There's issues in the Gold Coast at the moment in terms of what style they're playing. Are they playing around the clearance or are they just playing transition? Are they trying to make it all complement? It's hard to see at the moment, and their free fall has been enormous. They were a clear top 4 side for the first sort of month and a bit of the season in terms of the way they were playing, their list and everything moving forward. They've fallen off a hell of a lot since then.
Structurally, they tried to change a few things, which and it wasn't drastic, but it did help around stoppage and clearance. I think just what we spoke about regarding Brisbane. Now, they don't have to be Brisbane because they're just different makeup, and I get that, and they're always super proactive off halfback. Just from an outsider looking in, and I know Dimo was a bit upset with some people talking about his side. I just like them to still be proactive, but again, going back to what we highlighted with Brisbane is come back and use your man as a reference point. So as the ball gets closer, you get closer to your man. So you don't have to keep being overly proactive. So if the ball's only 30 metres away, the distance between you and I and the ball is over to my right, that's still proactive. At the moment, they're still 5 metres off, which unfortunately they're getting sort of leapfrogged in the middle of the ground, which exposes, say, my decision here with you. So as the ball gets further away, well, you can get further away. As the ball gets closer, you get closer. So that still can be attacking. Like I can still get
defense.
Yeah, I can still get the handball receive, but at the moment it's just a little bit still overcommitted. And that's just what I'm looking from the outside in. They might be coached a different way, which is fine, but it's just at the moment it's breaking down a little bit.
Well, and absolutely, that's one of my old coaches said you can be proactive by being on the front shoulder. That's all you need to be. It allows you to be proactive on the ball and your decision to come forward, but doesn't mean that you need to be too far in front of your man. The issues come when you get too assertive on your man and the ball becomes within kicking distance. It's really hard to come from the front, either from a free kick point of view and body work point of view. If you give most forwards the opportunity to own your back and nudge you under the ball, they're quite good at that. So that's the risk of when the ball comes closer, you need to close that distance on your man to be able to at least put yourself in a position to be able to be competitive in that contest or tie up your opponent so that the guy that's behind you can be assertive and help over the top. And they're still learning their way through that at the moment.
Yeah, and just looking at the numbers, and I know sometimes like numbers don't say it all, but if you watch the vision and then use the numbers, you can sort of back it up. So they had 12 players with one tackle or less, and like it was pretty slippery conditions early. Between 6 of their backs, and I know maybe some 7 or 8 roll through there, they had 1 tackle. So like one player had 1 tackle between 6 defenders. And Freo had 17 marks inside forward 50 to 4. Now, a lot of that comes from up the ground. Again, I'm not hanging the backs out to dry, but even those sort of raw numbers, like you're not close enough to actually apply any pressure.
Well, even if you just watch the last 15 to 18 minutes of the game, there would have been 20 missed tackles. Just from I don't have that exact stat written down, but the amount of times that a Freo player would have the ball, a Gold Coast player would put pressure on, be in a position to make the tackle and then just miss it, or the Freo player would get a handball out. That happened an amazing amount in the last quarter. And that's just an isolated period of the last little bit of the game. And if you go, then you're going towards method. Freo, one of the best. If you're going for inside 50 method, their ability to hit the forward, create space for each other. There's a moment, again, in the last quarter, coming out of centre bounce, or it might have been the third quarter, when Sean Darcy kicks his goal. Tracy's actually in his way in terms of where Darcy can lead. He leads up, rips out of the space. He's actually running back to goal to be able to create space for Sean Darcy to have leading space. That's a system that's working for each other to be able to give each other the best opportunities. I just don't see that on the other end. I don't see that there's creating space for each other. I don't see that there's a selfless nature in the way they're playing, which is, you see the difference in the sides. It's drastic, and that's why Freo are absolutely dominating at the moment, and that's a large part of why Gold Coast aren't, is because they don't have those roles being able to being fulfilled at a high level to help your teammates.
Josh Tracy would be an incredible teammate to play for.
Play with him.
Everything he does. And again, not being too tough on Freo, the Gold Coast Suns, Fremantle are an excellent side, and over there, as they've shown all year, unbeatable so far this year. Their only loss coming in their first game against the Cats down there at GMHPA Stadium, which they had a big lead in that. The Cats just managed to mow them down. Showdown 60. Port Adelaide turned up and showed up. They're 15th with a percentage of 100.9. If you just looked on the percentages alone, they're a much better side than a 15th place side.
Absolutely, and I've loved what Port Adelaide have been doing the whole year. In terms of, if you're watching your team play, say if you're a Port Adelaide fan, I'd love watching my team play because they do all of the intangible things really well. They defend well as a team. They work really hard. They don't get scored against. Frustrating in elements of their offense, but I think that builds. And I think what Josh Carr's done with the group this year, you've had some injuries that have been out that of your real high talent top end guys, which will hurt your winning ability. But their ability to stay in games and defend well, I think, has been outstanding. They played against Adelaide, who are probably the other team that does that well. The intangibles, the pressure, the contest, the work rate. They just outworked them on the weekend, and it's probably the hardest thing for a Adelaide fan to swallow is Port out-hustled you in a showdown, in a big game that means a lot for both clubs, and you take the ladder out of everything in these sorts of games. Port just were harder, tougher, and more committed to the contest, and ultimately they get a result off back. It's great for them.
Butters, extraordinary again, Horn Francis, and I like the last month of Jordan Sweet as well in the ruck. He's not only getting his hands on the ball, but he's having some impact around the ground. North Melbourne won over to Essendon. Marks the first time they've won 3 straight games since 2019. They just had to win, had to deal with the pressure, and they managed to do that. Nick Larkey, if he had his kicking boots on, could have had a big bag of goals. Harry Sheasel just keeps keeping on.
You can find a pill, can't he, Harry Sheasel? But it's interesting game. But North probably, if they kick straight, win by a fair chunk more. But positive signs in the Essendon. They didn't give up. They fought it to the end, and they opened the game up a little bit in the last quarter. But ultimately, what do you make? We speak about North a lot, and you're saying success so far because of ladder position, pure ladder position.
Yeah, wins, losses, percentage. Without getting too datery, there's a lot of metrics they've improved, and that's a good thing. They're trending in the right direction. Do I think? They're absolutely cemented. No, they've won the games that they should have won. They did drop one. I think it was the West Coast over there, which early in the year.
Early in the year.
Yeah,
yes.
early in the year. But West Coast, we know, are a different proposition at home. So again, I think West Coast has improved as well. So tick to both of those teams. I think at the start of the year, I think if you had between 7 and 10 wins from where they've come from, like since 2019, like it has been a much, much better year. There is improvement.
I think it's their start to the year, and I think they were 4-1 maybe or something along those lines. I think that invigorated hope in what could be. Is this going to be the year that they take a huge step? I think I'm probably the same as you. I think they've taken a pretty decent step in the right direction from where the club's been in previous years, but they haven't taken the astronomical leap that some teams. There's often a team that sits, 14th, 15th, and then the next year are sitting near the top 4. It's probably Melbourne this year that has taken that big leap, but it's probably what we thought North might do, but just haven't quite been able to get it all right. I think credit where credit's due for Clarko, especially. You have the Adelaide game where they get smashed, then they have the Freo game where they were diabolical. Their last 3 weeks defensively have been really, really strong.
Speaking of defensively, Essendon can't wait to get to an off-season to actually pick what defensive identity they want. Again, gave up 120 uncontested marks, and talk about no pressure. That was one of the biggest uncontested games of football on record. That's not opinion. That was just fact. Da-da-da-da. 6 in a row.
We're back.
Your Blues can't be stopped.
With Richmond this week to get
they're fun.
Even the ledger.
They're fun.
They're fun and dangerous in many ways. They talk about phases of the game connecting to each other. They've got all phases of their game. And it helps when your good players are playing well. Their midfield's dominating at the moment between Jagger Smith getting tagged on the weekend. You got Cripper, Walsh, Hewitt, all dominating football. Then you got Ben Ainsworth coming in.
I like Ainsworth.
He was outstanding on the weekend. So you've got the core of what Carlton is in terms of that contest clearance. That's a strength. It's always going to be a strength. What's complementing now is all the stuff around the outside. So their ball movement, their ability to get back in the corridor offensively helps them defensively. They're scoring well. They're all the intangibles we're talking about again outside the numbers. Their defensive stuff is great. And you look at Harry Dean, he's getting all the flowers he deserves at the moment, but he is playing outstanding footy.
He is a proper competitor.
Oh, God, yeah.
He looks like even if he loses one contest, he'd be filthy and he'd go to bed angry.
I watched him, I worked the game on the weekend. I watched him, you might remember it late in the game, comes off his man, tries to spoil the ball out of bounds, just misses the spoil. Ball transitioned to the other side of the ground. I watched him run for 40 metres, filthy at himself that he didn't spoil the ball out of bounds. That's the pride in performance and the want to win and compete.
Well, that puts Carlton right in the wildcard race. Just 3 games separate 4th from 14th, of course, as we head to the final stretch of the season. So we've got 5 teams who have 9 wins. So we'll go yes or no. Some real obvious ones here, all those teams. Which teams will make the wild card cut? And so that includes if they make the top 6. So we've definitely got them in. So Geelong?
Yep.
Brisbane?
Yep.
The Crows?
Yes.
All right, now it starts to get tasty. Melbourne?
Yes.
Bulldogs?
No.
You've got them missing.
I've got them missing, yeah.
North Melbourne?
No.
Oh. Collingwood? Remember Collingwood's got the draw.
I think the Pies make it.
Have you got Gold Coast making it then?
I've got them sneaking in. How many? 1, 2, 3,
So
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got to add one in because it's only 9. So I can only cross one of these teams. Maybe I'll keep the Dogs in.
All right, Carlton. No out.
Oh yes. Well, I can only know one of them. I've knowed North Melbourne. They're my no.
So Saints and Giants. So the Giants are in such.
We don't have everyone in here.
No.
Hang on. So how many am I crossing off here? You've led me down the wrong path.
If we do,
We've got Freo's in.
We'll do Freo, Sid, Hawks.
Yep.
So they're top 3.
All right. So there's 3. So I've got 2.
So you got 7 teams.
Geelong 1.
Yep. So
2 Brisbane, 3 Adelaide,
4
yep. Melbourne.
So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll give you 3 more teams to play with.
Blues.
2 more. You said Collingwood before.
Yeah, Pies.
1 more.
Who's the last?
You don't have the Bulldogs.
I think St Kilda sneak in.
Yeah, they got a good run home.
Yeah. So I've got Dogs missing,
Gold Coast
North missing, Gold Coast missing, Giants missing.
Yeah.
You?
I've got probably where I'd.
Yeah, who's the difference makers between us?
The Dogs. I think the Dogs.
You think the Dogs make it?
I think the Doggies make it.
I'm a little bit worried about the Dogs, and I've said this to you a few times.
Yeah, and I don't know why all year I've been super positive on the Saints. Maybe I'm just backing myself into a corner.
We've probably both been on that path of believing in the Saints and then not believing in the Saints, then believing in the Saints and then not believing in the Saints. That Max King, I think, he's the difference maker for them of whether they can do something this year. They've also got a few really big injuries at the moment. DeConning, Marshall, Sinclair, all out at the moment. And
they've got some good players playing in their VFL who are too good to be playing VFL, should be good players at AFL level. And I know they'll get there, but just at the moment, they're just not there.
It reminds me back of the Blues. It's waiting for I don't know, the likes of Curnow, Mackay, Wiedering, all of them to just become good and take that big step. So it will happen at some point for the Saints fan.
Yeah, it will happen. We'll see. It'll be an interesting and just the Giants there on 6 wins. They just seem like a side that it's one of those years, and there's always one team where they just can't get any momentum. Like every time they play a game, there's 2 players going out and they're key players, and then a couple come in, and then by the time they get into form, some others go out. They fluctuate, of course, with game style, game plan. It just feels like one of those years for the Giants.
Yeah, injuries. And no club will come out and say injuries curtailed our year. That's just no one ever does. Even if they believe it themselves, they won't say it. So I think that's a legitimate one for the Giants this year. They've had too many of their top players not playing, and it's hard to get momentum when that's the case. You're the perfect man to have for this next topic because you eat common sense for breakfast. Another week, another umpiring controversy, as some people say. Look, I'll throw them all together. So Logan Morris goal disallowed. AFL conceded that was the wrong call. Well, technically it was sort of right, but technically it was sort of wrong because he didn't get back onto his line, even though he did kick over the man on the mark and he didn't improve the angle. So make of that what you want. The ball hit pretty much the back fence and then came back into play. I know I'm exaggerating there, but Ben Keys, of course. And then Andrew Dillon told SEN that the umpire's decision accuracy on average is 90%. Is that good enough? Which sounds pretty good. Too many rule amendments during the season, which has players, umpires, and everyone confused. Your thoughts? My thoughts. I think the 90% umpiring thing is. I think 90% is good. I'm one of the. One of the people that there's always going to be mistakes in the games. Whether we like it or not, everyone makes a mistake in their life or in professional sport, whether you're a player, umpire. I think there's going to be mistakes. That's just the way it's going to be. I think you've got to try and get that as high as you can. But I think broadly the umpires do quite a good job in terms of the rules that they're given to umpire the game. If it's a different conversation about what they're required to do and some of the rules they've been given. But from that point of view, I think that one's okay. So I'll give that a tick. The arc shouldn't have a mistake. No, it's built. It's the fail-safe that's failed. Sorry, it's built to have that intent. The investment is clearly not high enough in terms of making it bulletproof. There's the one in the game last night. North Melbourne Essendon with the caddy goal? No, I was thinking there's one in Freo, the Amos goal. Oh, yeah. where he launches it. 40 metres
to
above
the
the
moon.
post.
Yeah,
and we don't have any tech to tell us where the goalposts go. It's like there's just so many flaws in the system, and they've changed the rules multiple times based off single instance games.
For the outlier.
The outlier. It's like one that happens every now and then, and they go, "Oh, we need to change it." Like that one bounces over the point post, and then they don't want to stop play, so then they let it go, and then they show replays, and it was over the. It just seems illogical. So, from that point of view, I'm a believer of the ARC needs further investment to be able to make it what it needs to be for the game. For such a, it's $1 billion game, and we have weekly something go wrong in terms of the ARC. So that one, and then in terms of the rule amendments, I'm a believer that we always bring in too many rules before battle testing them anyway.
Correct. Yeah.
When I say battle testing, it's okay. If we bring this rule in, what's the unintended consequences? And we talk about this a bit. What are clubs going to do? What are players going to do? What's going to be the result of these rules? And have we thought through all the contingencies of it all?
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't think that happens if it does happen, it doesn't happen to a high enough level, because week in, week out, there seems to be an adjustment.
Yep, play it out. It's even, you could extend that when we were just discussing the fixturing, already an announcement for in-season tournaments and things like that. We haven't even completed the first year of the Wildcard yet. And the first year of the Wildcard, with now the NGA father-son, of course, what the implications of finish down near the bottom of the ladder equals. What does it actually even look like? Let's just play this one out first.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just a solidifying year of checking, reviewing processes, reviewing everything that's happened in the background over the last 5 years, figure out what needs fixing and what needs adjusting, and then maybe start to think about some stuff for the future. But at the moment, there's enough live issues in the game that need solving that before you start to drastically change more things.
I just let me be a little bit self-indulgent here. On the podcast with Eddie, I highlighted an umpire. I was obviously, just to bring people back up to speed, I was at Caulfield Footy, and there was an umpire there, and he made your head snap around, and he'd yell out, "Play on!" like this. So we were discussing umpiring positioning, and I was trying to make a point and saying, look, he just stood in the middle of the ground. It was only just to prove the point of, get just really good decision makers, get them in a good position and things like that. Sitting on the couch at home, I get a text message from a number I don't have, and this said umpire had actually got my number. So I actually want to highlight him because he raised some great points, and I want to congratulate him on the incredible work he does. So he sent through a text message saying, look, he received lots of copies. How great's this? And his name is Adrian Fisher. So Adrian, this is a big tip of the cap to you, because what you do in footy and what you've done for over 20 years, we need plenty of people like you, and there are plenty of people like you that keep the game going. So he recently umpired his 4,500th game of football across, and many Melburnians know him, of course. As soon as you hear the play on, everyone knows that umpire. He did umpire the match out at Wheelers Hill. He did correct me. Ajax were actually playing Old Trinity, not Hampton Rovers, which I said, so apologies to Old Trinity and Hampton Rovers. He does throw, this is what Ed's been talking about. He wants umpires to throw the ball up on an angle, so like they don't get collected.
They lob it in there.
Yeah, they get that. Go on, you and you, have that, have some. So he actually does that because he's still moving around beautifully, 72 years of age. He doesn't want to get collected as well. He umpired 5 matches last weekend. 2 for Caulfield, 3 VAFA, thirds matches, and his own grandson's under-9s match as well. So I just want to say well done to you, Adrian. Thanks for the message as well. And I just wanted to clear up, you do a magnificent job, and we need more like you. But he gets in the position. He's great. He also has a bit of theatre to it, which all the players love. You know it's definitely play on because he's yelling it at you. But he just gets himself in that nice central position, calls the games beautifully. Still at 72.
That's an outstanding effort. Well done to him. And I do love the lob it out from under.
So he just stands back a little bit further and just still gets up nice and high. But
there's a talent there.
There is. And I do notice with a lot of our AFL umpires, you reckon they'd actually all practice like a minimum height? There's a lot of short ones that just in the centre bounce, just barely gets off the hand.
Maybe they need a bit more time altogether to be able to standardise the game.
Get some bicep curls just in the mirror. Just
some culture in the gym.
Yeah, just. the Essendon coaching search, it was announced that they have a full internal panel to select their next coach. It'll be the CEO, president, 2 board members, a HR boss. I'm pretty comfortable with that. They've used an external panel before, and now they're their internal panel. So, look, Dean Solomon is going to commit to Essendon until the end of 2027 regardless. Matthew Lloyd actually came out and said he has no interest in the role, as he was put forward as a potential candidate as well. I want to ask you, as a player, obviously players get canvassed their opinion, and it's always really difficult to talk against someone who's already there. So, like, you'll get asked, hey, what do you think of Dean Solomon? Well, you can't talk the guy down as a current player because he's your interim coach. But how much of a say do you want as a senior player? How many coaches did you have in your time?
Oh, now you're ripping over old wounds here.
No,
about
but
6 or 7.
Yeah, but like, do you actually want to say, or like, do you want to say, look, no, we actually need someone slightly removed to then make the smart decision for this group?
Well, I'll go from the players and then I'll go to the coaching panel.
Yeah.
I think players broadly, I don't think are used very well in terms of decision making in terms of clubs. Players are a stakeholder within the club, and you talk about what stakeholders within the club. Whoever the decision makers are should canvass all stakeholders. So the players are one of that, and you got to understand the players are always going to have their own bias in decisions. So they're going to be the players' voice. They're going to be what's happening internally at the club and what influences them, like any other stakeholder that's going to have their own part of it. So I think players always should be canvassed about the decisions, but ultimately the decision-making power lies with the people that are making the decision. If you go in terms of how to pick a coach, and looked in the background about what I think the best method is, I think you need a CEO in there, you need the GM of footy in there, you need whoever's the portfolio on the board, the footy
director.
There's a director in well, if there's not, then
who holds that portfolio?
Whoever holds that portfolio. So they'd be a part of it, and the president. So you got 4 from the internal point of view. I think you need external because I think you need to get out of the groupthink, because all of these conversations happen at board level. There's already a predisposition and a bias between where the club thinks they should go. So from an external point of view, I think there's 2 important people you should have in that process. So I think there's someone that's been there, done that, in terms of a player or a coach or a really respected football person that's been at clubland and understands the landscape. And I think you need a recruiter. So it's someone that does that as a profession, not to make all decisions, but make sure the process is rock solid in terms of what it should be.
A consistent structure.
So that's the 6 that if I'm sitting there trying to pick a coach, that's the 6 I want there. I think it's enough internal in terms of who can have the conversations with the players, who can have the conversations with the board. You've got the president who's the board. You've got the GM of footy who's internal. You've got the CEO who does the broader club sense. Then you've got the footy person that sits above it. Then you've got 2 externals that challenge the status quo. So 2 people that are going to sit there and challenge and throw in new ideas, be part of the decision-making process. And then from that perspective, someone that's been external from the footy club, I think is really important. If you go to the 2 clubs that are looking for it at the moment, Essendon have got 3 of those roles, but no independents. So there's an element of, and you listen to everything that's coming out, it seems like they're just so far down this Essendon person path. Is there anyone that can challenge that there? I don't know. From a Carlton's point of view, they've got the bones of it all pretty well. The external point is probably the one, Adam Simpson's on it, he's internal, external. He's a bit of both. He ticks the box of been there, done it. So you can kind of give a half tick there, but they're missing a pure external to challenge it as well. So I think ultimately the decision-making power on the inside is probably going to lean slightly more towards the internal people. But I think both clubs not having a pure external person is a bit of a mistake.
And I'll tell you one thing to watch out for, listeners, because I was part of a coaching panel.
You've done it?
Yeah. Adam Kingsley for the Giants.
Yep.
Part of that group. The thing that I found hilarious was we kept it airtight, so no information getting out. But because of the time, we're naturally impatient in the media because you've got to feel the news cycle and things like that. That when we appointed Adam Kingsley, the reports out of a few journalists who clearly had backed their horse in the media, a shock selection or the outsider. I was like, who's the outsider to? What, just because you didn't pick him? why did we ever consider them the outsider when they actually might have been our first?
They might have been the front runner the whole
They
time.
might have been the front runner the whole time. They might have been in the middle, and then in their last interview come to the front. They might have been last and then become second last, then second, then first, whatever way. So I just advise anyone who's following some media along going, they are the favourite. The only favourite is the one who's eventually selected to be the coach of that football club.
Aren't you and Hurdy going together?
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
That's the bit that I.
That's what I've heard too, as well. Very good by you. Your chance to rub it in, even more than that, of course, Doc, and it's our chance to say, "I told you so," or brag about a victory. All thanks to Deep Heat. Rub it in, ice gel from the makers of Deep Heat. Feel at work. Always read the label, and follow the directions for use. The ice gel is actually good for foot injuries as well. I rub it on my foot all the time. I get to go first here. So we have to do these bold predictions and things like this all the time. And when you get a couple in a row, it's always funny when you do one, you're called an absolute nonce by everybody. So then when you actually get it right, it's your chance to rub it in and do the told you so. I had big Darcy Fogarty to kick 4 goals. I actually technically got it wrong. He kicked 5 goals on the weekend. I just think he's just come back last couple of weeks, back to the top form that we expect, and then having big Thilthorpe and Tex around there. Adelaide's ball movement's improving. I know Port Adelaide were a little bit too good the other night, but he certainly kept him in the game for quite some time. So that's my rub it in. Darcy Fogarty, 4+ goals. You got to rub it in?
My rub it in. We just spoke about it before, but this is more long-standing because I don't have the bold prediction that we do on this show all the time. But mine's the Port Adelaide's defence. I've been down this path for the whole year in terms of how well they've played and how much I think they're improving and their profile is going to stack up. It was nice to see them be able to get one fully in the same game in terms of their defence off the back of it and then being able to play good offensive footy. I love that. But I'm saying I'm rubbing in because I was right. I just maybe a little bit early on it.
Yeah, it was an early rub in for you. All thanks to Deep Heat, the ice gel from the makers of Deep Heat. Feel at work. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. I'm introducing my own medal next here, Doc, the Bartel Medal, which I get pretty well right at the end of the year, and I'm not going to take any other feedback from that. I award 3-2-1 votes to plenty of people, but look, don't worry about how many people there are because it all just adds up quietly in the background. I'm not going to go through all the 1 votes and the 2 votes, but my 3 voters, if you think I've missed anyone with the 3 voters, I've got some suggestions there below, of course, in the 2 and 1. But my 3 votes, Chad Warner in a losing side was incredible for the Swans. Jai Newcombe is having some sort of year for the Hawks. Nick Dacos had a Satchmo, of course, 37 and through.
Sacamano.
Satchmo, I like to call it. Timmy Taranto, again, in a losing side was brilliant. Zach Butter seems to be here most weeks. The Shees, Harry Sheasel, and Murphy Reid is some sort of player. Do you reckon I missed anyone in particular for 3?
No, I don't think so. It's very midfield heavy, but that's
where the game
stock standard, isn't it?
It's where the game starts and finishes. They hide the rest in the back line and the forward line, as we know. The leaderboard so far. Well, you can pick apart my leaderboard. I got a 3-way tie on 15. I got Newcombe, Gawn, and Heaney. Newcombe coming onto the leaderboard. Naz is on 16 votes. Jordan Dawson's on 16. Cozzy on 19. A bit of a gap here to our 2 leaders. Nick Dacos and the Bont on 28 apiece.
I like your top 4. I think the top 4 are probably what I'd be saying over this year. The Bont, Dacos, Cozzy and Dawson. Big gap between the top 2 though. So we'll see. No, I think it's going to be an extraordinary, if we've gone Brownlow medal, there's going to be some massive numbers this year.
Yeah. A couple of guys might go past 40 and there we go. Hey, Doc, appreciate your time. You come back Wednesday. Sam Docherty, who joined me, he'll be back Wednesday, and so will I. Make sure you send through any questions to Eddie and Jimmy at tapmedia.com.au and follow us on Instagram. Just search Eddie and Jimmy. Follow Eddie and Jimmy wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch us on YouTube.